Salutations and good morrow everyone, and welcome to Kerbal Space Program 2, where today we're starting a brand new campaign here in single player. We are going to be going through and we are going to have a normal difficulty game. Our campaign names, we're just going to go ahead and call it Sim-Alot here, just for fun. And then the space agency now is going to be named the Sim Space Agency. Now this is how you go through and just set it up for very basic. You can go through and change your colors as much as you want. I'm going to go with Sim-Alot green with an accent color of this gray color. Press set agency colors down here and choose your flag that you want it to be. And there you go. You have it all set up. Now when you go ahead and press start campaign, you are going to start off with this nice little welcoming message that's here. If you have give you the tutorial part of it. It's going to go through and it's going to give you this basic starter video that's going to kind of walk you through everything that you want. You can watch this if you want to, but we're not going to watch it today. Okay, so here we are. Paige is going to walk you through how to do different things, but we're not really worried about what Paige is telling us right now. What I want to walk you guys through is how to get started, how to go through and start your first rocket, get it built so you guys can start flying in Kerbal Space Program 2. So let's go ahead and go to the vehicle assembly building, shall we? Now what you're going to need is a couple things. You're going to start with a pod. Your pod is where you're going to have all of your little Kerbals that are going to fly your spaceship. So let's go ahead and add a pod. Okay, this is going to be a very, very, very basic rocket here, okay? What you need is a pod, some fuel, and a booster. Now notice the type of fuel that this is. If you go into the different fuel tanks, you have different types of fuel. Methalox, methane, monopropellant, xenon, hydrogen, and then you have fuel lines if you want to use those as well for transferring fuel between different fuel containers, but we're not worried about that for right now. We're going to stay in favorites for now. Okay, we have the pod, which we added, the Methalox fuel, which we added, then we have Methalox engines. There's different engines depending on whatever fuel you are using. See, monopropellant, xenon, hydrogen, Methalox. We're staying with Methalox because that's what we're using right now. Okay? Then we went ahead and we have stack decouplers if you want to add more decouplers, but we're going to talk that a little bit later on in the video. But more importantly, right now, we're going to talk a parachute. This should be the most basic of basic rockets that you can make. This is going to get you around 3,500 meters in the air. It's very, very simple to do so. Let me get all these out of the way here. The tutorial will explain all this to you if you so want to read all that, or you can just follow me and I'll walk you through how to do it really simply. So here we are. The last thing we want to do before we go out to launch is set up our stages. Stages are important because if you don't, right now, stage 1 is launch your parachute and launch your engine at the same time. That's no good. Just go ahead and click and drag your parachute up to a different stage. You can add another stage by clicking the plus button there. And now let's go out to the launch pad. This tiny little basic rocket that we have right here is a very, very, very tiny example of what you'll be able to build in the future. But let's go ahead and launch this thing. When you go ahead and you launch, what you're going to want to pay attention to is these little keys that are over here on your nav ball. First thing is surface. This yellow one that's over here. This is how fast you're going. This is your velocity, okay? Then this is your altitude, how high you are, and the angle you are currently flying at, okay? We're going to try to stay spot on right now. We're going to leave RCS and SAS on. I do believe that Bill Kerman is a pilot, so he should be able to keep us straight and steady as long as we tell him to keep us straight and steady. So right now, this is our thrust potential. We are going to keep it at 100%. We have a tiny little engine with a tiny amount of fuel. Let's go ahead and press go and launch. You can also press the space bar to launch if you want to as well. But here we go. We're going to go and set off and launch up into the sky. And there we are, liftoff. You can see we are now accelerating up into the Kerbal atmosphere. This is fantastic. We don't need to angle this thing at all if we don't want to, but I am going to go ahead and just angle us ever so slightly going off this way, and I'll explain why. I want to go off this way. We're still going to go to about 3,000 meters or so. You'll see that the boosters are going to cut out right about now. And we have enough velocity to get us up to, like I said, around 3,000 to 3,500 meters above the ground. That's great. But why did I angle us this way? I angled us this way so that way we have a softer landing zone. Okay, landing in the water is always safer than landing on the ground. That is why NASA literally lands all of our spacecraft in the water. All of our capsule human being spacecrafts land in the water. Now, the next thing we need to do is activate our parachute, once again by pressing spacebar. You'll see that it just kind of goes out and starts flapping around like this. That's because we're too high up in the air and the atmosphere isn't thick enough for it to spread out like it did right there. Now that we're nice and spread out there, you can see we're coming in for an ever so nice landing at a good old velocity of around 7 meters per second. This is a good velocity to land at. It doesn't tend to break anything. Now, could you add landing gear on this and land on the surface? Yes. Can the landing gear take a little bit more of a beating than, say, our very fragile engine and fuel container here? Yes, it could, but we're not really worried about that. We got about 600 meters to go to the ground, so I'm going to go ahead and speed up here while we go through to sea level here. We're going all the way down, and once it gets to about 80, I'm going to go ahead and slow us back down here. I'm going to go ahead and slow us down now. We're getting a little closer than my comfort. Now, why did I do that? I did that because when you fast forward through landing in Kerbal Space Program 1, well, things can get a little funky from time to time. Look at that. Ground altitude, sea level, we're at 201, and yet we are in the water floating safely. And we have officially made it safely back to Kerbin on our first flight. There you go. You've officially launched your first rocket. Good job. Even if you were to land out, say, on the ground, honestly, the parachute and everything you've built here, it's not heavy enough to where anything should break. You should be able to land this thing really anywhere. Let's talk bigger rockets, though. Let's talk actually getting into outer space, shall we? Let's go ahead back here. I'm just going to go press escape, and I'm going to revert back to vehicle assembly building. I'm going to go ahead and convert the revert back. Now, this does make it so you don't recover your vessel or anything like that. It's literally reverting time all the way back for us. Before Bill got to fly for his first time, we are now once again back in the vehicle assembly building. Now, I'm going to keep this pod the way that it is, except I'm going to move it up a little bit because we have a little bit of a bigger rocket to build now. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to grab the fuel tank and the booster at once, and I'm going to separate them for now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a coupler. Now, I need a small coupler here, okay? Because what we're going to do is we're actually going to decouple this bottom booster, and we're only going to land our little pod here. But you know what? Let's actually bring some science stuff up there with us, shall we? Let's go here and let's look at what we have. We have stabilizers in here. We have some RCS stuff. That's all good. Let me see if we actually have science stuff. We have communications, payloads. Here we go. We got some payloads here. We have the cockle shell. That's always good to have. You never know when you're going to need that. Stowaway, a cabin, a crew cabin. Here we go. We got a small crew cabin. We can go up and bring some more crew with us that we want to bring up. That sounds like a grand idea. So there we are. We have that. Now we're going to launch with these guys, and we are going to land all together with more crew. Now, with more crew and more weight, we're probably going to need some more parachutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some drop chutes, okay? These are going to slow you down at a higher altitude than what the main chute will slow you down at. So I'm going to go ahead and grab ourselves this good old extra small drop chute that's here, and I'm going to click this symmetry mode that's down here. This is going to make it so we have more than one of these on the side of the rocket. Now, I want to make sure I'm not covering up the door because you never know when your Kerbals want to escape. This little black marker right here, that's the door. Actually, it's this. That's right here. But just don't cover that up. That's their window so they can see. That's their door so they can get out. Don't cover it up. So there we go. We'll put that there. We now have a couple drop chutes. Let's go ahead and create another one of these stages so that way the drop chutes go first. We can slow down more in the atmosphere and then use our large chute to land us. Now, speaking of that, maybe we want to look to some sort of making sure we don't crash when we get to the ground. So let's go ahead and grab some stabilizers. I'm going to go ahead and click our symmetry mode to give us another one here. And I'm going to go ahead and put 3 of these guys on here. Now, if they extend all the way, let's put it down a little bit further. If these guys extended all the way, I could show you right now, leg is extend. you'll see that they land well below where we're actually coupling. So let's go ahead and move them up slightly because we need to make sure that these are attached below where the coupler is. So there we go. We're going to have some nice stable legs to land on. All right, let's go ahead and extend those back up, retract those in. There we go. Our landing vessel is ready to go. Now we have this little tiny bit of fuel that's here. That's great. Let's go ahead and get a little bit more fuel, shall we? Let's actually use a solid fuel booster this time. Solid fuel boosters are great for getting you off the ground. So let's start with some decoupling, okay? Decoupling is going to be important because that is how we are going to detach what we currently have, that booster, and our whole landing thing to the solid fuel booster. Now, solid fuel is underneath engines. Here it is, solid fuel boosters. We're just going to go ahead and grab this small guy that's right here. This should be enough to get us off the ground. How much tolerance is thrust is 192. That's actually not too bad. But what I would like to do is make us a little bit more stable while we're flying in the air. So I'm going to grab a control surface, actually some stabilizers, some extra small stabilizers here. Okay, and I'm just going to put these on the very bottom of the rocket, leaving 3 times symmetry on. That's going to make us very stable while we're flying. We're going to fly up. It's going to be great. We're going to be able to control a little bit, and then we're going to land. It's going to be wonderful. It's all going to be part of it. So what I wanted to do here, so we're going to launch, decouple. Oop, we don't want to decouple again, so let's go ahead and create another stage. There we are. So now we're going to launch, decouple, launch this engine, decouple it, use our drop chutes, and land. And in there, we're going to need to extend our landing gear. But right now, this is a very, very basic flight for us now. We are ready to go through and launch this guy, and we're going to see if we can actually get off the ground with this one solid fuel booster. Now, once you start building larger rockets, you're probably going to want to actually put stabilizers on this thing, so that way it's not just sitting on the engine on the launch pad. But right now, we don't really need that. So let's go ahead and get set up to launch here. We don't have any crew in here, I don't think, right now, but we could ferry people around if we wanted to. But for now, let's go ahead and just launch this very basic decoupling rocket and see if we can even land this thing. Because adding another Kerbal here actually is not going to give us that much more weight. So there we are. We were able to very successfully launch off here. I'm going to go ahead and angle us this way this time so we can try to land a little bit more on the ground. I'm going to decouple this engine and launch this one. I'm just going to go ahead and angle us. Notice that this engine can actually gimbal, okay? That means we can actually control which direction we're going by directing the flow of the propellant launching us the direction we're going. There we go. This looks to be a very, very stable burn. We can actually go all the way out to the map here, and you can see how far we're actually going to go. We're actually going fairly far, actually. Looks like we just ran out of fuel, so let's go ahead and close up all these tutorials we have and decouple this as well. We no longer need it. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and extend out our legs, and we're going to flip our spaceship around if we can, ever so slightly. It doesn't want to turn around. It's because we don't have any control surfaces. That's okay. You're worried about control surfaces? Guess what? As soon as you launch these drop chutes, once we get to a point when we're going to be slowing down, we'll flip this whole thing around, throw them built through a whole bunch of G's, which you'll see right here in this upper right-hand corner for an ever so slight second, as soon as we get low enough to the surface for it to actually get enough atmosphere to slow us down. There we go, and whoop! And now you'll see we are ever so slightly just falling straight down with our drop chutes, but we are still at about 40 meters a second. This will destroy our spacecraft if we land at this velocity. So what we want to do is, now that it's about clear for us to launch the next chute, let's go ahead and launch the next one. It's going to go up, and we'll see that until we're about, I think it's like 700 meters above the ground, if I remember correctly, somewhere around in there, it should open up. There we go. It's 800, and now we're going down at, well, about 10, 9, 8, 7-ish, 8 meters a second. Now, this is enough where these guys will be able to cushion our landing, okay? These feet should be able to land us. Now, I did notice we're going to land on a mountainside. wasn't my best landing in the world. Okay. Yeah, landing on the side of a mountain always produces a little bit of a problem because you're now landing at an angle. This is one of those reasons why landing on the ground is a lot more dangerous than landing in the water, because you never know if it's going to literally be angled where you're going to try to land your spacecraft. In the future, we'll have to try to land on somewhere that's a little bit more flat, maybe out there, instead of up here on this mountain. But here we go. We're coming down ever so slightly. Bill looks absolutely thrilled to be doing this, and I am as well. We're coming down. We're going to land in about 3, 2, 1, and landed. And there we go. And the feet were enough to keep us upright. That's fantastic. And there we go. We're actually on the ground. The legs don't look to be fully extended. Let me try to bring them back in. And let's try to put them back out again and see if it actually lifts us up. And it set us back on the ground onto our buttocks. But there we go. We've successfully landed. We used all of our chutes. Bill is very happy about it. In fact, he might even be able to do an EVA. It doesn't look like he wants to come out right now. Let me see if I can. There we go. If I click on him right here, he is now EVA'd onto the side. And, oh, are we going to tip? Nope, we're not going to tip. All is good. Nothing's broken yet. We're good. All right. So, yes. You can EVA out if you have a trained astronaut to do so. As you go through and play a campaign, when they add it later in the game and they make it so you have to go through and research all of that, like they have in Kerbal Space Program 1, we'll be able to go through and test out all of that. But this is the very basics of rocket flight. Now, the last thing I do want to do is actually get us into outer space. We're not going to worry about getting up and doing an actual orbit in this episode. We're just going to focus on getting yourself into space, which, if I remember correctly, I think it's about 200,000, 20,000, 200,000, somewhere in there. It's a lot. It's quite a bit further in the air than what we currently are. But with this little vessel right here, we should actually be able to land. There's just one thing I want to add to it first. So let's go ahead and revert back to vehicle assembly. Confirm back. There we go. And Bill's going to fly for us again. But this time, we're going to take the passenger part off of this, and we're going to try to land in the water again. Because we're pretty much going to go up and then back down. But because we're coming down from so much higher, we're going to need a little something else. So let's go ahead and take all this that we built. Let's just go ahead and sell it off. We don't need it. What I do want to get us, though, is look down here. See if I can find thermal here. Thermal, here we are. We have heat shields. These are ablating heat shields. These are important to keep us alive. So this should slow us down. What will happen is, as we're flying through the atmosphere at way faster speeds, this will burn up, and then we will use our drop chutes and our parachute to land us safely, hopefully, in the water. Next thing we're going to need is a decoupler. There we go. To ensure that we actually end up in the water, I'm just going to go ahead and grab that very small fuel tank again and that very small engine. Go ahead and throw a stack decoupler on here. And now I'm going to give us a much larger engine here. I'm going to go into fuel tanks, and I'm going to go ahead and go, engines. I'm going to go down and I'm going to grab this solid fuel booster that is very, very much so larger. Okay. This is very big. Okay, this should get us very fast up into the air, but with this, I want some more stability as well. I'm going to go ahead and grab some small stabilizers, make sure we turn symmetry mode on to grab 3 of them, and there we go. This should get us a significant larger distance up in the air. Launch, decouple, parachute, don't need this stage, don't need that stage, and don't need that stage. All right, perfect. Launch, decouple. But I'm still just a little concerned this might not... You know what? We're going to see how far we can get with this. This is a lot stronger of an engine for us going as high as we're going to be going. So let's go ahead and launch. We're actually going to skip the countdown this time, and we're just going to go ahead and launch straight on through. There we go. So you're going to see this is going to get us going a lot faster because it's a lot bigger and we have way more fuel. So before we made it about 5,000 meters above ground, Yeah, this is going to get us significantly higher, especially assuming how we're flying at a lot faster. Now we're spinning slightly because of the angle of the wings that I put on there. The stabilizers are not at a straight, so you're spinning just ever so slightly. If you had 4, it would have been fine. There we go. We're making it quite the distance. Check our apoapsis here to see how high we're actually going to go. And right now, we're going to make it to about 70,000 meters in the air. So we're definitely in outer space. Let's go ahead and decouple this. Fantastic. Now, I'm going to go ahead and angle us ever so slightly this way towards the water. I'm going to turn down how fast we're using our booster over here. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this little engine on just to kind of throw us this way towards the water a little bit more. Now, if you look, we're going to make it to about 100,000 meters in the air, but we're coming down at a very, very, very steep dive right now. I don't know even if our ablator is enough to slow us down fast enough. So that's why I'm going to go ahead and just take us and point us directly 90 degrees. Now, trying to keep us out of an orbit here, we shouldn't be able to get there with this little jet engine that we have. I'm going to go ahead and crank it up to as fast as we can. There we go. You can see that angle that we're coming down at is going to be a lot better now. Let's go ahead and slow us down. Actually, let's go ahead and cut it down off completely. All right, that's great. We have a little bit of fuel left, and I'm going to explain to you why I kept a little bit of fuel on here, okay? I kept a little bit of fuel. That way I could swap us around completely to this direction, pointing us towards this little blue guy that's here, all right? And once we start coming back in, coming down, okay? I'm going to go ahead and fast forward us up a little bit. Once we start coming down, I'm going to go ahead and burn, because what that's going to do is it's actually going to slow us down even more. And that's what I want to do. So I'm going to wait for us to get to maybe about 500 to 600 velocity going back down towards Kerbin. Speed us up a little bit more. You should see that now we are going down in this little green X. Whoops, wrong button. There we are. Go back out of the map. And let's go ahead and bring our booster back up here, because we are ever so slightly going back down, but now we're going to burn a little bit of fuel, slowing us down as we go back towards Kerbin. Okay. Try to keep us on this green axe, because that's the actual angle that we are descending right now. Looks like we're almost out of fuel. Very good. I'm going to go ahead and kick this thing up to give us kick it off for a second. We have just a little bit left. We're going to go ahead and fast forward slightly. Wait till we get to about 1,000. Go. 800's good. I'm going to go ahead and burn completely here to slow us way down. There we go. And now let's go ahead and decouple this guy. All right. That's going to fall back to Kerbin, and now here we are in our little spacecraft. Now what we want to do is make sure that we're locked on our descent point, because we need this ablator to take all of that pressure from us going back towards Kerbin. Now we are falling at a way, way, way steeper angle than I wanted us to. I'm just going to be honest. I wanted this to be a lot less steep than what we're on right now. We're coming in at about 1,000 meters a second here in velocity. You should see this start to light up a little bit too as it starts to burn through the atmosphere. We're going to be getting into the atmosphere here very soon. But once we hit the atmosphere, we will start slowing down. So you can see the thickness of the atmosphere right here. There goes that. We're falling through. Make sure we're angled up properly. And there should be no, we're actually slowing down. Very nice. Apparently we didn't get fast enough to actually ignite our spacecraft at all here. A little bit of a bummer. I'm going to go ahead and drop our drop chutes here. So those are going to go up, and that's going to start slowing us way down. Looks like we are going to get our water landing that we were hoping for. And if we go through and just fast forward through here, you'll see the drop chute should come out at about 2,000 meters. And there they go. And then going down around 800 meters, we'll go ahead and let this guy go, our next chute, because we're only going down at about 30 meters a second, so it's safe enough to let this parachute go. Uh-oh, 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 uh-oh. It's not launching. It doesn't want to launch for whatever reason. We're only at about 250 meters above the ground. We're still going too fast. Let's go ahead and deploy that chute. There it goes. All right. Deployed out. Whew! Almost lost the Kerbal there for a second. Yeah, sometimes you got to go through when your stages don't align, and you got to launch our chute manually. But we still were able to get it, and Bill is once again landing very so slightly into the water. There we go. Splashdown. Very safe here. I think that the splashdown is still a little bit broken because, well, it is still in early access. Let's just say that because, I think we're actually sinking is what's happening right now. We are going to need some sort of flotation added on this thing, but we're ever so slightly sinking further into the water. Don't worry. Our Kerbal's going to be fine. Our Kerbal's going to be fine. But for now, I think that's going to do it for this video. Thank you, everybody, so much for watching this one. I hope you guys are enjoying Kerbal Space Program. If you guys are, make sure you hit that like button on the way out. In the next video, I'm going to be walking you guys through how to get up into orbit and bringing a larger spacecraft with you so that way we can actually mess with our orbit while we're up in outer space as well. But thank you guys so much, and as always, I'll see all of you guys in the next one.